Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Dan Ratner. Today, I'm joined by John Salley, four-time NBA champion, first to do that with 3 teams and in 3 different decades, the former host of the Best Damn Sports Show, period, a vegan activist and chef who created his own vegan restaurant, and a mental wellness entrepreneur. I'm thrilled to have him because we have so much overlap and we have so much to talk about. If you haven't already, click subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, hit like if you like what you're hearing, and put your comments below and I'll get back to you personally. John, I am thrilled to have you on Crushing Doubt. Of course, I did interview you on MFSN, but we focused on like the Pistons and all that stuff, your NBA champion days.
Yeah.
But I found out this thing right before we started that you were all about mental wellness. And
Yes.
I don't know about you, but I was blown away when I was saying, I do this mind-body stuff. And suddenly I hear John Salley saying to me like, oh yeah, of course. And you start talking about all this stuff. I'm like, man, I felt like I'd known you for years when that came up. It was incredible.
Yeah, a lot of my teammates used to call me Sensei when I was on the Lakers, because I'm not gonna let you go into a low vibrating state, not with me on the squad. So I used the things I learned in martial arts and the things I learned in being mindful, and I had a doctor like you in college. So I had a shrink, and they wanted to call him a sports shrink. I guess that's the new name for it. And my best friend had got murdered. So
while I
was in college, yeah. So they thought I needed, to talk to somebody, which wind up being probably the best lesson in the world, and it kept me to be a professional, or it changed my life, the way I learned how to work my body just by breath, by thought, by visualization. I had anger problems. I was from New York. I was always nervous about somebody. And I learned how to control my emotions, energy and motion. I learned how to control the energy that I put in motion.
It's incredible because, I was going to start off talking to you about Adrian Dantley because he was as far as I knew, he was pretty influential in your life, but you had already started this journey even before Adrian Dantley, who you call the teacher, I think.
Yeah, I call him the teacher, and then that's why I became the sensei instead. Adrian Dantley was very soft-spoken, and a lot of people won't know who he is. He's top 50 players of all time, but he was like 6'4", and he led the NBA in scoring 2 or 3 seasons. He's the most unbelievable human being and basketball player that doesn't get enough recognition. But Adrian Dantley taught me on how to pack for the road, where to go on the road, how to prepare for the game, how to eat before the game, which is the most important thing of any athlete, is how you hydrate your body and what really hydration is. And he taught me by me doing it wrong. And he only did it during exhibition season. So when the season came around, I knew exactly how to prepare my body.
All right, I want to jump back for a sec though, because even before you were at Georgia Tech, were you into mental health at all, or was it what happened with your friend that blew the doors off of it?
No, I've always been into the other side of how things work. A couple of my friends, growing up, I grew up in a project in New York called Bayview Housing in Canarsie section of Brooklyn, way on the east side, right by the Jamaica Bay. And a lot of my friends, it became white flight, and what was a high rise in the 50s turned into a project or a housing department. And they started moving Blacks and Latinos and Puerto Ricans into the neighborhood. And so the neighborhood was changing. And I had a couple of guys who I hung out with that were, the joke. They were on the short bus. So they got out of school at 2:00. And I noticed that, and I paid attention to why they got out of school. And then when I got older in high school, a couple of them were still in the class that stayed in the same class, and they got out at 2:00. And then I started realizing what they were considering ADHD, hyperactive, bipolar, manic depressive. All these guys had these names for it. And I was friends with them. As a matter of fact, I believe I played with a couple of guys who had bipolar a bipolar situation, guaranteed. And it at first I was thinking as I got older, maybe it was drugs, but it wasn't. It was definitely bipolar. It was one day one guy would be one way, and then the next day in practice he'd be completely different. And then all of a sudden when we're getting on the plane, he'd be a different person to the point where I was like, yo, is anybody else noticing that this dude has multiple personalities? And they were like, yeah, that's just, and because guys run in and out of the lead so much, you don't pay that much attention. But one of my teammates, Willie Burton, literally brought it to the attention of the NBA that they need to do something with health issues, mental health issues. And so Willie Burton is one of the leaders or one of the people who championed for the NBA taking it more serious. If that doesn't happen, Meta World Peace doesn't get a shrink that he can, a psychiatrist that he can thank during his championship win, right? Yeah. He wanted to thank his doctor because he realized how important that was and how important that doctor was in controlling the only thing that you really control, yourself.
Yeah, and I'm learning about you all the time because I just met you recently, but you wanted to be a doctor at one point before you were a 7-footer and you knew, I got to do something with this. It just does seem like you were always an observer. And I know this about you because like 2 minutes into our interview, maybe even 1 minute into our interview, but no, even before the interview, you were cracking jokes like a pro comedian. Mm-hmm. And I was like, this guy is an observationalist. He's gonna know all kinds of things. Any good comedian is. People, it's funny. Oh, my pleasure. You earned it. But I'm a therapist, so people don't actually find out I'm funny right away because I don't just like start cracking jokes. But like, that's what I was doing. Even before I was a therapist, I was a comedian who was observing.
Yes. And let me tell you, I studied Richard Pryor I tell people when I first heard Richard Pryor, one of my brothers is 22 years older than me. One is 12 years older, one is 5 years older than me. So I had to hurry up and grow up. And when they were sneaking and listening to Richard Pryor, I was sneaking and listening to Richard Pryor. And to the way he sniffed and giggled and his quick responses and how he controlled the crowd. And even if somebody said something, how it was part of the act, it felt like it just was an important thing that somebody was able to make jest of reality. And I also realized by being around a lot of comedians that I think it responds out of being in a crazy place. Mike Epps, right? Back in the day, he was like, yeah, I was on that bus and they used to make jokes with me and this and this and this. I was on a short bus. And then he was talking about the people who were on the bus. And he was like, man, these people are crazy. And he goes, yeah, you crazy too. You on it. But Michael Epps talks about it in jest, but he really was one of those people who people used to joke at and point at and call mean names. And I just, I always saw the comedians, and I can tell too, right? My mom used to say I was a magnet. We'd be on the train, and who would the crazy guy get on the train, talking to him, he'd sit right next to me. And my mother would say, birds of a feather.
Yeah, well, I think that people who struggle, they gravitate towards the people
with good energy.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you bring that, and that's what I'm like too. They would always come to me. But there's another thing, and I think this is really important for mental health in general. I'm still getting to know you, so you have to tell me if I'm wrong about this, but I don't think I am. You strike me as a very non-judgmental person. Mm-hmm. And I think that's so important for mental health. We have to bring that in general. When I think about all those people who were on the short bus, let's say.
Right.
They're being judged. They're being seen as lesser. And and one of the reasons I do this podcast is to start to challenge that notion and to spread the word that we all have problems.
Everybody. And like, I didn't, when I say, if anybody listens and I said crazy, because that's what people would say to somebody. And Dave Chappelle said, it's dismissive to say somebody is just dismissive. You don't know. Everybody has situations, and the environment is sick, so you may be sick. So I don't mean, I'm not calling them crazy. I'm not making a joke of people who left school earlier on how the New York public system dealt with it. But I was so enamored by it that their brain moved a different way, that I started, the other kids who had, I don't know what the word is, disabilities or handicaps, couldn't walk fast, leg problems, and wheelchairs. I would leave class 10 minutes early and then go pick up these and then cart them to their next class and put them there and somebody had to remind me that I did that my senior year in high school. And they were like, do you remember that you would all of a sudden leave and then you push them to the room? And this one kid got in touch with me on Facebook that I hadn't seen since the 80s. And I didn't remember his name. I didn't even remember doing it because I didn't do it for publicity. I did it because it needed to be done. And they needed somebody to champion them. And they needed, because people weren't thinking they were cool or whatever. So I was a well-taught, sought-after athlete. So everybody knew. So to have me do it was a better thing. And they kept saying, why do you do it? I said, because if y'all think I'm cool, then this is cool. Helping somebody is cool. I had also, like I said, I wanted to be a doctor. My father, in my family, I'm from an American family of Africans that were stolen 400 years ago. So in that gene pool, diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, obesity, mental health problems is the thing we have. It's like, it seemed like when certain one of my cousins hit a certain age, one of the eyes moved, they lost this, they were in this situation. It seemed like it was constant. And then I had cholesterol that was 270 something at 27 years old. And I wanted to know how to get rid of it. And so when I changed my diet, I realized everything was connected to the gut. And so there's a book out called The Mind-Gut Connection. And when I realized part of the reason everything is connected to the gut are parasites. And these parasites that literally come from cats, the head of cats or the head of dogs, literally can do so many things inside your brain. So when I was helping people there's a couple of people who were drug addicts, and I realized, like, what is it connected to? And the first thing we do, go up here. And I started realizing your mind is your lower intestines, your small intestines. Because when the food is going up and around and through, it's letting out what it needs to go into the bloodstream that then goes to your brain. So that obviously your mind is your gut and your brain is in your skull. And to this day, I work on mind-gut connection. I work on mindfulness when chewing. I make sure, like this conversation, I'm at my cafe now, Cafe Organics in San Bernardino, 420 East Hospitality Lane. What a commercial. But in here, a lot of vegans are coming to me. A lot of people say, well, it's not the healthiest vegan food. And I always talk about, well, I'm not putting death in your body. As soon as I say that, they think differently. There's one great comedian started talking about how crazy we are for eating cows. And not only do we eat cows, we eat their children, and then we drink their children's food. And then we got the gall to put our missing kids on a box, on milk cart. It's hilarious. I reposted it today. But it's literally a connection that I try to get people to connect to. And it seems like when they get grounded and they're able to understand that their thought process is a great thing. There's a great writer named Mitch Albom. He wrote Tuesday with Maury. He's dyslexic. And his writing is crazy, right, to us. But he has an editor that knows how to read what he writes. And I think he's on his 6th book. So, and he was a major columnist. So to be that great at putting words together, but then when you go to put them together, you write letters backwards and upside, like you wouldn't understand how that would work. But greatness seems to come out of the chaos. Kanye West is a genius, and we know he has mental health issues, right? But like he said, that's his superpower. So talking to you and you saying, let's do this, I couldn't wait, because it is a superpower. It's something a lot of people don't have. And that if you could use it to benefit you while you're in this mental dimension, it's a great thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think the whole idea that a lot of brilliance comes out of these people who would otherwise be being thrown away. In fact, a lot of them are. You know, you look at the homeless population, for example.
Yeah.
A lot of those people, they were thinking about things differently in ways that got them into trouble. But like, we got to harness those different ways of thinking. And I find progress doesn't happen without the different thinkers. Otherwise, we just do the same thing.
Right. And it wouldn't be cool. And, you know, I always think this, Doc, and I say this, my daughters say I do it on purpose. When I drive downtown Los Angeles, I always make sure I go down San Pedro, which to some people wouldn't know, it's literally on the map as Skid Row. I literally drive down so my daughters realize, you know, not just white people are privileged. They are too. And so white people are overprivileged, but they are too. They are too, to the span you have in this life. We don't know how long it is, right, to have to go through that kind of trauma, then to be on the street, to add to your trauma. And it's literally surviving. It's like everybody out there are like squirrels. Like, you don't know if a hawk is going to come down and get you, or what's going to happen. I mean, you're living in trauma. The girls are, you know, selling their bodies at young ages, not understanding if there's anything else. I work downtown with the Mission. I put together, I did it with a lady who had got caught up in heroin and fought and got herself off of it. When she was born with it, she tells a story, she was born with a silver spoon in her mouth. And then she became a heroin addict and had to fight her way back, and she wanted to help the rest of them. And I started realizing how many people self-medicate. If they find something and they don't want to get into a system, or they don't trust the system, you know, they self-meditate. And it's getting, you know, more and more harder for them to deal with the reality, what we consider to be reality. I always was going out trying to help people. I was raised as a Jehovah's Witness, so I have some trauma. And and I'm knocking on people's doors in the 70s, a little black kid saying, "What are you going to do after you die?" You know, that kind of thing. My daughter came and asked me, "What is the meaning of life?" I said, "To enjoy it." You know, and as opposed to just living it from day to day, you should enjoy what you have. So I think about that when you talk about homeless. But there's one thing, Doc, I always want to say, you know, some of these guys or ladies, some of these people, as my daughter told me to refer to them as they, so I don't get in trouble. They were in high school with some people. They were like top athletes. They were like in the choir. They were in a debate team. They were, you know, and then you watch the movie Beautiful Mind and you realize it can just flow. It can just go off for a second, and how you get back to it. My cousin had postpartum. I think that's how you say it. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to literally, I said, you have to get some help. You got to get somebody to, you know, talk to. But as opposed to, hey, get out of here, let's get some help. I'm like, hey, let's think about how we can help you so you can get through that. Because it's a real thing. It's not just you being a mean mother. This has been documented. So I've always did want to help people and get to it. And then I found out that you know, you had to take chemistry, and then you had to get invited to med school, and then you had to do residence, and then you had to see blood and if they really didn't like you, clean bedpans. So,
listen, this is part of how I ended up in psychology too. I was like, I don't think I want to do that.
Shots. Yeah, I did hook shots. I was like, nah, man, I don't want to get involved in that. But to this point, I became a certified health coach. Me and one of my business partners, Megan Brophy, and bringing my cousin Tiffany in. We make products. I'm a herbalist. outside of the cannabis. I've been doing that since 1999. But now I'm deciding to come out with all these different products I work with.
So exciting. And I wanted to ask you about a particular thing because this goes along with the kind of work that I do. When I say mind body stuff, I think we mean the same thing. We're speaking the same language.
Yeah.
But when you talk about trauma and living in trauma, that takes over your whole physiology.
Yeah.
And so it's not just your mind that's living in the trauma, your whole body is. And I think this is part of the reason that in the African American population there are so many physical things going on. I think it's the tremendous stress and distress that's out there all the time.
Constant. Like growing up Black. People don't really care, but growing up Black, like imagine this trauma to people who are Black and people who are not. Imagine this trauma. When you're seen, you're judged and put into a box before you speak.
Before you've done anything.
Before you speak. And like I told people, a lot of people aren't racist, they're prejudiced. Like they get caught in their brain, they prejudge. And now I have to deal with, if you do something great, I'm doing it for the entire race. You do something bad, you're doing it for the entire race. Mike Tyson led us there. Like people say that, like I'm carrying the weight of my ancestors on my shoulders and the people now. It's a different thing. The most people don't have to deal with. But more people are becoming more and more aware and more, accepting. Elon Musk saying he was born with Asperger's. Oh yeah, Asperger's the first one to do Saturday Night Live, or the first to admit it. You see things. You see people who think differently are in great positions now, to the point where maybe you should think different. Maybe the way I'm thinking isn't working for me. Maybe I should think different. And everything is a choice, right? Everything is a choice. So your choices need to be clear. In Scientology, I studied that for a while. One of the things they did is they kept trying to audit me. And I know people are going to come, oh, I was part of this cult. I'm Black in America. I'm already part of a cult. There's 44 million of us. Y'all killing us. So in there, when they were auditing, they make you be honest with yourself. They make you face things that are, and not the cover you put on them, but as they are. And I thought that was an amazing thing that they did by letting me feel that, by letting me learn how I could literally look in the mirror and talk to myself first. I always tell people, put your oxygen on first before you help the person to your right or to your left. Like if you're dead, you can't help.
I say that all the time too, about that plane thing,
Yeah, man. Got to.
You can't help anybody if you're out cold.
No. So don't jump in the whirlpool trying to help somebody. You throw a rope in the whirlpool and pull them out.
Exactly. You don't want to
go. They don't need two of y'all fighting, right?
So, you may or may not know about what I do specifically with chronic pain and stuff, but I was thinking about what you were saying. I actually was thinking about what you were saying about the gut. So let's start there, because you probably know this because you study this so much. But
yeah,
your gut has the second most neurons of any other place in your body. It literally is the second brain. It's just what you're saying.
Right. I consider it the first brain, because you ever got punched in the stomach? Your brain up here won't tell you to fight back.
No. No.
You get hit in the head, you can stumble and get back up. But you get punched in the stomach. Like I tell people, a headache, a stomach ache to me, I take a headache all day. But I'm
with you, man.
Can't deal with it.
Well, right. And when your brain is disabled, whichever brain we're talking about, when your brain is disabled, you can't do much of anything. But I'm curious what your opinion is about chronic pain, because I think about these issues a lot. I'm trying to change the national narrative in the same way that you are about all the things you talk about. I want to talk about how all kinds of things that we don't think relate to the mind-body thing really are that. And I have lots to say about it, the science, the logic of it, all of it.
Okay. Well, this is my thought, and I'm not going to be apologetic to it. My thought is this. This is why I'm a vegan. Now, the trauma a cow goes through, a calf goes through, knowing it's in a place to die, know what is put into it, I think that transfers. When you talked about physicality of your body, I believe there's the physical. I believe there's a vibe around you. You can call it a spiritual. I believe all of that. And when you talk about chronic pain, I know that weight gain a lot of times is emotional. It's an emotional gain. It's something that you're holding on to, right? And your body is holding on. And then I also know that one of the craziest parts is when you don't like the way you look, or you don't like the way you feel, the saying of misery loves company, the girl's going, look at that skinny B over there, or he thinks those kind of things literally knock you down. Like I call it low vibrating situations, low vibrating people, low vibrating food, low vibrating environments, right? Like it just, you run into this low vibrating situation. So when you do that, you're going to get the knee pain. You're going to get the lower back pain because you've eaten something that's not moving along your intestines fast enough, and your body is spasming in the back trying to get this out, but then you don't hydrate it. So it's going along dry intestines because that's where your hydration comes from. So now you got back pain. Now you got back pain, you don't move a certain way. So now you're not getting the blood to move. A body emotion is a body emotion. A body still is a body still. So you don't move. All of a sudden things start happening. You don't like the way your feet smell, your underarms smell, your body smell. Like all of those things run into a pain. It runs into anxiety. It runs into you feeling lesser. And so you get a pain. Your shoulder pain up here, holding too much, right? You're holding it up here in your shoulders because you're taking your stress and you're putting it in all these different muscles, as opposed to when you finally get a massage and you feel, oh, I feel unbelievable. I feel so this, I can sleep better. Right. There's all of that letting it go. We say it when we're doing massage. Breathe, let it out, let it go.
Let it go.
Right. Let it go. Like people who cry. I told somebody, I said, yeah, you cry a lot, but it could be a good way of your body relieving stress. That's how your body feels it needs to let go.
I think you will really be into this idea, because one of the things I think about is people let things go, but if they're living the same life inside, then they're just going to live the same physiology again. They're going to go right back to it. And so part of my work,
I think it's parasites.
You think it's what?
Yeah. Parasites. But go ahead.
Parasites. Well, listen, I think that you and I are talking about very similar things. And in some ways, we may be coming from it from opposite ends. Like you may be dealing with it in the gut way, and I may be dealing with the head brain. But I think we're doing the same thing, because what we're talking about is you got to change what you're feeding yourself. You're talking about feeding yourself food.
Right.
I'm talking about, what are you feeding yourself in your conversations with yourself? And you're talking about that too, but that's part of what I'm saying is, well, what are you really saying to yourself? Let me give you an example. So I talk about this with my audience all the time. One of the things that I fed myself, I didn't realize I was feeding it to myself, and it was, of course, fed to me first, was a narrative about me. And it started with when I was born. When I was born, my father died when I was 6 weeks old.
Sorry to hear that.
Thank you, John. But I'm okay. I say this, not to draw sympathy from people, because I'm actually I'm happy with who I am. That was traumatic for my family, and I grew up in the traumatic family. But here's the worst part. I did not think I was valid, and I didn't even realize it. And I was feeding that to myself. I think it's so interesting that you're talking about what we feed ourselves, because sometimes I soak in the language of the other person. And I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. What we're
Right.
feeding ourselves matters. I was feeding myself ideas about myself, and those led to pain also. I think whatever we feed ourselves,
You
however we're
know,
feeding ourselves.
you're 100% right. Think about this. Um, okay, so for people who don't know, I played in the NBA a long time ago, and had a pretty successful career if you match it to a lot. And the one thing I realized in doing that is that I can literally talk myself into doing whatever I want it to be done. I truly believe, and this sounds so egotistical, but I promise you, I work on my ego. I believe I can fly if I wanted to. And they go, "Oh, you can't fly." I can always book a flight. I can fly anywhere I want. But I literally believe if I want to do it, it can happen. And that's because of what I'm from. I'm from, I'm the third boy, fourth boy to a family living in a project in Brooklyn. And I used to go on the roof, and my mother would say, "Hey, if you look over there, you can see on a clear day, Coney Island. So look over there, Mike, you can see Beverly Hills." And she goes, "No, you mean Manhattan?" I go, "No, Mike, you got to look past Manhattan." And she used to be like, "Boy," I said, "Watch, I'm gonna live in Beverly Hills, and I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna do that, and I'm gonna do this." So for somebody who's done it, they go, "Well, you played basketball." Yeah, I literally
They've
grew to
got it
7 foot.
backwards though.
They do, and because I could be a 7 foot nothing if I didn't sit around and know how to focus my brain to it.
This is
And I'm
funny.
not bragging about being in Beverly Hills because I'm no longer in Beverly Hills. But when my mother came to my house in Beverly Hills in 1996, she goes, "You made it." I go, "Oh, Mom, I made it a long time ago." I bet. She goes, "No, you talked about being a pro, but you only talked about leaving Brooklyn and going to Beverly Hills." So don't steal the name of my book. It's called From Brooklyn to Beverly Hills and Beyond. And
Love it.
and that it's literally the travels that I felt I needed to do, the things that I missed out on, that I didn't miss out on. I missed out on teen pregnancy. I missed out on alcoholism. I missed out on drugs, and I missed out on gangster affiliations. I missed out on gang warfare. I missed out on all the things that could have taken me out of the spot. And because I wouldn't feed myself that that's what I was, I wasn't feeding myself that, and I wasn't going to I only smoked a joint in May of 2000. It was a month before I retired, and I played 15 years. I wouldn't put anything in my body, or you was not going to catch me and test me, because they wasn't testing for the finals for marijuana. And I didn't smoke until a year after that. But when I found out what it did to my body and how I felt, I was like, cool. What it really did is open my brain for me to sit and be honest with myself. And I ran in 2009. I was blessed enough to do a show called I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. They took us to Costa Rica and they put us in the jungle. And I was in the jungle for 28 days. And I got literally to cry because when it was raining, no one saw me crying. I got to literally think and breathe. And I forgave myself for all the negative I had done. And I forgave other people for the negative they've done to me. To the point where I came out of the jungle back in 2013. I'm at this event, this big conference, and I see this girl who had accused a whole bunch of athletes for paternity. And I know I had nothing to do with it, but I got thrown in it. Obviously, it had nothing to do with her. And they just put my name in it, which was really, um, painful.
Sure.
But then when I was cleared of it, I didn't say anything. And, I saw this broad 2000. I'm gonna call it that for a reason. And I was crazy mad when I saw her, like 2001, 2002. Like, how dare you even say hello to me? So it's 2014, and I see her And I say, hey, how are your kids? How you been? Man, I ain't seen you in so long. And she's looking at me shocked. And I'm like, why are you looking at me like that? She goes, you're being so nice to me. I go, why would I not be nice to you? And then it hit me. I go, oh. And she goes, yeah. I said, yeah, I left that in the jungle.
That's
Like
amazing.
I literally let it in the jungle. Like I didn't have any ill will toward her or anyone else. Like I realized that people are doing the best they can with the time they have. That's it. They don't know any better, and they're only doing the best they can. You can't expect them to be as what you want them to be. They're going to be who they are, and it's going to be what it is.
It's a beautiful message, and you know, we're all on our own journey too. And
Yeah.
I loved what you said about really, I don't know if you phrased it this way, but I was thinking about dreams, because actually before I interviewed you, I was, before this interview, I was doing a segment for the podcast, and it was about the fact that you have to dream something to get it to be true.
Yes.
Which is exactly what you did with Beverly Hills. And like, people would look at you and think, oh, he can dream big because he was in the NBA. No, you had to dream to get to the NBA. Like,
yeah. I was a very sickly kid too. Let me explain.
Wow.
I went to college at 175 pounds, 6'9". I think my daughter is 6'2", 170. Like, you know what I'm saying? She could have moved me off the post. Well, they thought they could, but because I was mentally strong, right? My body didn't, you know, you would see, oh, we're going to break this skinny kid. Then you're getting dunked on and I'm moving you out of the way. You have to literally see it. And it's a trip because the reality is way better than the dream. I'm telling you, your dreams would be great. You know, I want this and this, that, and the other. But man, when you get to the reality is way better than the dream. That's why guys say, hey, I'm living the dream. You're living better than the dream. But you have to do that dream first. You have to tell the universe, meaning yourself. So when I say that to people, when I say the universe this, the universe that, I do that because those are the words they're used to hearing. But the universe is you. You got the heart. You have the brain. You have the kidneys, the liver, the spleen. You got a section in the middle of your heart that's a black hole, that's a void. You got these long extensions. You got blood, water. You got viruses, bacterias, everything working to keep this avatar moving. So your universe is you, everything inside you. That's what I mean by that. And it's only about you. So people say, man, everything is about, you know, a girl would yell at a guy, man, it's all about you in this relationship. Yeah. Yeah. Because the stronger I am and the stronger you are, the stronger we can be, if it's supposed to be.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously the context of it's all about you usually is very negative, but you know, I think you're hitting on something that I talk with my viewers about. There's three ways that I help people get rid of pain in my method.
Mm-hmm.
One is connecting them to their major emotional themes, who they are and how they are in each moment.
Mm-hmm.
Another is to get doubt and fear down to zero so that you can live happily and without that fear. And then the third, and this is relating to what you're saying, is what I call power. That's all about the relationship with the self.
Yeah.
If you don't have a good relationship with yourself, your body's going to rebel against that. You know, I think the body is our friend. The body is always saying to us, I want you to be powerful. And if we're not, it rebels.
That's a true statement. Because think about it. When your body doesn't want something, I call it your, you know, like I said, your God organ is your gut. You ever all of a sudden get and I say this all the time, I tell my daughter, I say, hey, do what your gut tells you. And she goes, can't you just give me an answer? I said, oh, you want to be controlled? Okay. No, you can't do this, 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 and this.
Yep.
And you should do that, that, that. And she goes, okay. I said, but there's going to be times I'm not there. So I'm going to need you to prepare your God organ to give you the right answer and to focus on giving you the right answer. So she sat and was like, okay, I'll follow my gut. But if I do the wrong, I said, trust me, it won't let you down. They'll never let you down. And fear, false evidence appearing real, there's no reason to fear it.
I love that. Yeah, I mean, I think that if we listen to our bodies, we're going to do better in life. That's what I've found. I have not found anything that is wiser for me, for what I need, than what my body tells me. And that's why I focus on the language of the body. If I'm walking down the street and suddenly I got a pain in my leg, I'm not thinking, what did I do to my leg? I'm thinking, who am I and what's my body telling me?
Yeah, that's dope. You know, God, I don't know if we get in trouble for it. I won't get in trouble for saying this. I think I said it before. Yeah, I said it before. Kevin Durant, great shape. Stress that was around him, stress put on top of him. Kobe Bryant, not stretching the certain muscles, lifting weights, thinking I'm just going to be big and strong and I'm going to be invincible. Those are buildings. Those are mountains. But when you got a body that's flexible like this, you better make everything work. And I think when they blow their Achilles out, not saying that this is true, I think it comes from stress.
Oh,
I remember I had a
preaching to the choir here.
Yeah, I had a stress fracture in my foot when I went to play for Miami, to the point where I wouldn't listen to. They had to put a cast all the way up to my thigh so I wouldn't move, and so I would let it rest. But they didn't ask me, hey, is it true you're getting married at the end of the summer? You know the stress I have that's going through my brain. The thing, it just shut down in my body. My body found a place that couldn't deal with those vibrations. Absolutely. So I think, and then we see Kevin Durant all of a sudden go off on Mike Rappaport, and I realized, I said, that's not coming from a hate for Mike Rappaport.
Mm-mm.
That's somewhere else. This is harsh. We need to pay attention to what's going on, why he's feeling this is a place to unload.
Yep.
My favorite player, but I wish I had a relationship with him so I can really have that conversation and bring you in, and then, let him be who he is.
I would love to do it. And I'm a huge sports fan, but I watch athletes, and people don't realize they're human beings.
Right.
Like I'm a Cavs fan. I would watch LeBron, and he'd have a bad game, and I'd be like, LeBron, come on, I need you. But like, he's a person.
Right. And he never had a bad game in Cleveland.
He really didn't. I mean, his bad game was like, an all-star level game anyway.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
But you could see when he was struggling with something in him.
Yeah.
And I see this all the time with injuries. Actually, I'm curious what you'll think about this. I watched Usain Bolt. The guy was unbeatable.
Mm-hmm.
He finally got beat. And the next race out, he pulled a hamstring. And I don't think that's an accident.
No.
I really don't.
No.
And
I think it was like, I really think when you lose, you quit. And I think that's what happened. He wanted to go out. He didn't want to lose again and again and again. And it's not that he got past his point, but it's just that literally it gets to a point when no one got better than him. It's just the level of his mental capacity may have slipped during his preparation.
And I think he was operating on the strength of invincibility.
Yeah.
But like, you're better off after that. You're better off if you come back after that.
Yeah. At Kobe's funeral, I meet Michael Phelps. And I meet his wife and his kid. He's a great thing. I said, you're great in the pool. I said, I know how hard it is in the pool. I'm a black man trying to stay buoyant. That's a hard thing to do. But what you've done after, and what you've done for mental health, and how, like Magic, sacrificed himself, giving it a face. Magic gave HIV a face. That this is a great human that can get caught into it. Mike Phelps did the same thing. He was like, mental health situation is real, and we need to pay attention to it, and we need to identify it. We need to talk about it. And we need to be vocal about it. So I said, what you do after has been an amazing thing.
I couldn't agree more. And I feel like I want to talk to you for years. Like that.
Well, let's have a part two. We'll have a part two.
Should have a part two. We should have a part two,
Yes.
and I just, I wanted to say I'm so admiring of who you are as a person. I mean, I watched you in games personally because I was a Cavs fan. I would sit courtside and be like, oh, the Pistons are so frustrating. But like when I hear your story, your mental toughness and your mental toughness is very apparent. But the fact that you dream
Mm-hmm.
and then you go after those dreams and that you understand these things and that you go to help people think about the differences we have in our minds and how they're strengths or they're interesting or they lead to growth. I just think you're doing great work for veganism, for climate change, for mental awareness, all of it. And I'm just
Thank you,
thrilled
man.
to be connected to you in this way.
Okay, we'll do part 2, Doc. It's on. I got so much more, man.
All right,
So
let's
much
do it.
more.
We'll,
All right, brother.
we'll set up a time. Thanks, John.
Thank you very much, brother.
All right.
Vibration.
Well, there's only one word for that, and that is wow. And the reason that I say that, I say wow after some other interviews, but the thing about John is how many ways that he and I connect and how much he understands about the wisdom of the body, about what we feed ourselves. I didn't know a lot of that was coming. It's just we talk and it was unfolding. We were in the moment together. The idea of him talking about dreams in a way and me understanding that you have to dream to make it come true. We have so much overlap, and we also share the passion for bringing this to as many people as possible because we can help people be powerful and happy in their living if they are putting the right things into them, whether it's the food that he talks about or the thoughts and the feelings that I talk about. It was just a pleasure, and you can't find a better human being than John Salley, in addition to how funny he is. But man, he is a man of many talents, and I'm honored that he joined us on the show, and we're going to have him back again soon. If you haven't already, click subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, hit like if you like what you're hearing, and put your comments below, and I'll get back to you personally.